Rowdy Yates with Climate Coffee. I want to introduce you guys to the world's first carbon negative coffee roaster. All right guys, Rowdy Yates with Climate Coffee. We're here at the very first step in the process where we're actually diverting waste from the landfill. So normally this Starbucks sends their coffee grounds to the landfill. We're actually going to go pick those up right now. All right guys, so we're here at Starbucks. We're actually picking up our spent coffee grounds. They save them for us in these specific bags. So we're getting ready to take them home. All right, guys, so we're over here at Night Heron Bookstore and Coffee House. So we just picked up some coffee grounds. Here's what it looks like in our bucket. And we're going to take these back and start processing these and to use to roast coffee. All right, guys, one of the differences with Climate Coffee compared to all other coffee roasters, we don't use grid electricity. So around here, we actually run our entire process on solar power. So this is the solar power for running our process. We're getting ready to run some coffee here, or roast some coffee in just a few minutes. And that's how we're going to power the whole thing. One of the other differences that you'll find with Climate Coffee is our fuel. We don't use propane or natural gas for fuel, which that can obviously flavor your coffee. It has some different chemicals in it. So what we are looking to do is just use spent coffee grounds as our fuel. So we don't use any natural gas or propane, just spent coffee grounds as a fuel. Another difference is that we're able to actually utilize the coffee filter. So we use this for our startup fuel. So we'll actually load this in the burn chamber and use this to start the fire with. The next step in the process is we're going to go ahead and get the fire lit. So we're going to kick on our draft inducer and go ahead and light our stove. So right now we're in the preheating process. So right now we're trying to get our burn chamber up to temperature. We're just burning some scrap wood, some wood pellets, and some coffee filters. So that's our fuel that we're using right now. All right, guys, so now we are up to temperature. We're at 1,503 degrees in our main burn chamber. Our riser is a little over 1,000 degrees, and we just went over our set temperature, or under our set temperature, so now it's back to feeding fuel. We're using very little fuel. What we're finding is that these spent coffee grounds have an enormous amount of energy in them, and so I'm guessing that we're only running maybe a few gallons per hour of coffee grounds to run this roaster, and we have plenty of extra heat. So it's pretty amazing when you can get this equipment all running and kind of in its steady state operation. And right now we don't even really have to touch this thing. It'll run for several hours without anybody doing anything. All right, guys, remember how I told you we don't use propane or natural gas for a fuel? So I wanted to show you guys, here's our regulator, here's our hose going into our roaster. We've actually taken the entire burner assembly out of this, so there's nothing hooked to this yet. You notice our temperatures are going up. That's heat from our rocket char machine from the pyrolysis process. So we're completely, the heat source is spent coffee grounds, no propane, no natural gas.
I'm looking for the temperature 340 to 400, just to get that lighter roast going. And you know, it depends on drum speed, depends on fan speed, that kind of stuff. So it all just happens during the roasting process, and it should be fairly simple. Pretty good, I think. So, ready?
All right, guys, one of the other big differences about using our heat source versus a traditional heat source is traditional heat sources just run on natural gas and propane. They don't have any extra heat. Our process actually generates extra heat, which you can utilize for heat in the wintertime, for drying coffee grounds, or other purposes. That also helps us with our generation of carbon credits. All right, guys, so we're here at the back side of the coffee roasting operation. So if you look up here, you can see our emissions, or can't see our emissions, I should say, because there's nothing coming out the top. So this equipment right now is running at about 1,500 degrees, completely clean emissions. And that's a much different story than traditional roasters. Traditional roasters, in some cases, don't even use afterburners. So they're just spewing smoke, carbon dioxide, and methane into the atmosphere. The ones that do use afterburners, they're just utilizing extra energy, which increases their carbon footprint. So in both cases, that's a negative, where ours, we just burn the gases completely, and so we don't have to worry about afterburners or any emissions. All right, guys, and here's what comes out of the back of our machine. So this is our finished biochar made from spent coffee grounds, and that's carbon that will never go back into the atmosphere, at least for thousands and thousands of years.